Ever feel like history is just this massive, tangled web? Like we try to trace the lines, but there's just so many threads, it's tough to see the full picture.
You can definitely feel that way.
Yeah. So today, we're handing you a magnifying glass.
Ooh, I like this.
Right. We're diving deep into historical materialism,
There we go.
a theory that tries to explain not just what happened in history, but the why behind it all.
The why is always the most interesting part, isn't it?
Absolutely. And our guide for this deep dive is this academic paper we've got here, unit10.pdf.
Which, let's be honest, looks a little dense.
A little intimidating.
It's really tad.
But that's what we're here for, right? To break it down into something you can actually use.
Exactly. We're going to pull out the juiciest insights, the stuff that'll make you sound super smart.
Like you could win a pub quiz with this knowledge.
Or at least impress your friends.
Exactly. So let's start with the term itself, materialism.
Okay.
Now, when you hear that, what comes to mind? For me, it's like fancy cars, designer clothes.
Right, the finer things.
But that's not quite what we're talking about here, is it?
Not exactly, no.
Yeah.
See, even before Karl Marx, materialism had a different philosophical meaning.
Okay.
It's the idea that the material world, the actual stuff around us, is the foundation for everything else.
So like our thoughts, our ideas even.
All of it. It's saying those things come from our interactions with the physical world, not just from thin air.
So instead of starting with abstract ideas like justice or truth, you start with the concrete stuff.
Precisely. Imagine you're trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
A materialist wouldn't just sit around pondering big ideas.
Right? They'd get practical.
Exactly. They'd look at what's actually happening, the tangible consequences of different choices.
It's like that saying, actions speak louder than words.
There you go. Now, early materialists thought humans were basically shaped by their surroundings.
Makes sense. We adapt to our environment.
Right. We were products of the material world.
Mm.
But then Marx comes along and flips the script.
Ooh, how so?
He says we aren't just shaped by the world, we actively shape it right back.
Okay, so it's a two-way street.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Through our labor, our creativity, our inventions, we change the material conditions around us.
So it's a constant back and forth.
A dance. A push and pull between what we do and the material forces at play.
And that's the heart of historical materialism.
You got it. It's not a static view of history. It's dynamic, ever-changing.
I like it. It's got a good beat.
And you can dance to it.
All right, so we're not just tumbleweeds blowing in the wind here.
Definitely not.
We're out here shaping the world, but like what are the tools of the trade in this historical materialism dance-off?
Marx gives us two main tools to understand this.
Okay, lay on me.
He calls them the forces of production
Okay.
and the relations of production.
Forces and relations, those sound kind of like
A bit jargony.
yeah, kind of.
Maybe, but they're actually pretty intuitive.
Okay, good.
So think of the forces of production as everything we use to make stuff in a society.
Everything.
Pretty much. It's
Yeah.
not just factories and machines, though.
Right, gotta have materials to make the stuff.
Exactly. It's the raw materials, the tech, the knowledge, even the skills of the people involved.
So it's like the whole shebang, the
Yeah.
whole ecosystem of production.
You got it. Now, the relations of production, that's where the real juice is.
Ooh, getting juicy.
This is about who controls those forces we just talked about.
Okay, so like who's running the show?
Exactly. It's all about power dynamics. Who owns what and how labor is organized. Think property rights.
Right, profits, who makes the decisions?
All of that. And this is where Marx's theory gets interesting, because he says there's always a conflict between these two forces.
A conflict between the forces and the relations.
Right. Think about it. At first, a new way of doing things, some new technology. It's great for everyone.
Yeah, everyone's excited about the possibilities.
Exactly. But as time goes on...
It's like that new phone you gotta have every year.
Exactly. At first, it's revolutionary.
Right. Life-changing even.
But then a new model comes out.
And yours is basically obsolete.
And that's what happens with the relations of production. They get outdated. They don't fit with the new forces anymore.
So the system kind of gets stuck while the tech keeps moving?
And that's when you get unrest revolutions. The whole system is challenged.
It's like the system's a pressure cooker and the pressure keeps building.
And bam, revolution.
Intense. So Marx is saying this tension between the forces and the relations, it's the engine driving all of history.
You got it. He even outlines specific stages of history based on this idea.
Oh, really? Okay, so walk me through this historical highlight reel. Okay, so hop in our time machine. Where are we going first on this historical road trip?
First stop, early humans living in small groups just trying to survive, hunting and gathering. This is what Marx called primitive communism.
Primitive communism? Sounds kind of intense for a bunch of folks sharing berries.
Right, but it's not about ideology here. It's pure necessity.
Yeah,
Everyone pitches in or everyone starves.
makes sense. So, how do we go from sharing berries to building pyramids?
That's where those forces of production come in. Remember, even with basic tools, humans are inventive.
Right, we're always tinkering, trying to make things better.
Exactly. We figure out farming, we start producing more than we need.
And that surplus, that changes everything.
Exactly. Suddenly you've got extra stuff someone can control, someone can own. That's the birth of social classes and stage marks called slavery.
Right, a pretty brutal system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Marx saw it as a turning point. Labor itself becomes a commodity, something to be bought and sold.
Yeah. Our unit10.pdf source had a chilling way of putting it. It's like human labor became a thing for the first time, not just something you did to survive.
Exactly. Okay, now jump ahead a few centuries to feudalism.
Knights and castles, the whole medieval scene.
Exactly. Still a rigid class system.
Yeah.
But here's the twist. Serfs, unlike slaves, they had a little something of their own.
Okay, yeah, they worked the land, but maybe they had their own little plot, too.
Right. A small farm, some tools, and that little bit of ownership, it changes the dynamic.
So even a tiny shift in those relations of production has big consequences.
Huge. Serfs had a stake in what they produced, even if it was small. They had a bit more autonomy, a bit more bargaining power, and guess what? That extra little bit they produced.
Let me guess, it fueled the rise of a new class.
Ding, ding, ding. Merchants, artisans. The early seas of what will become.
Capitalism, cue the factories, the steam engines, the whole industrial revolution shebang.
And it's a time of massive change.
Mm.
Those serfs with their little plots of land, now they're factory workers, wage laborers owning nothing but their ability to work.
And Marx sees all this happening around him, and he's like, whoa, this system, this concentration of power in the hands of a few, this is going to blow.
He saw it as unsustainable, ripe for revolution.
A revolution where the workers rise up and establish a classless society, communism.
Exactly. Bold prediction, right?
Super bold. But let's be real. History didn't exactly follow Marx's playbook, did it? We've had revolutions, sure, but no global workers' paradise yet?
It's true. History is full of surprises. Even our unit10.pdf admits historical materialism has its limits.
So where did Marx go wrong?
For one thing, he underestimated capitalism's ability to adapt. It's a lot more flexible than he gave it credit for.
Right, we've seen waves of regulation reform, even pushback against some of the worst excesses of capitalism.
Exactly. And what about the revolutions that did happen? Russia, China, they weren't exactly the worker-led uprisings in industrialized nations that Marx predicted.
Okay, so Marx's crystal ball wasn't perfect, but does that mean his whole theory is bunk?
Not at all. Remember, historical materialism isn't about predicting the future. It's about understanding the forces at play, the dynamics between power production and how societies change.
It's a lens, right? A way of looking at the world and asking the right questions.
Precisely. Questions like, who benefits from the way things are? How does our relationship to material stuff shape our lives? Those questions are still relevant today.
It's like Marx gave us this amazing toolkit, this way of analyzing things and asking those tough questions about power and change. So yeah, his predictions weren't spot on, but the questions he raised, those are still worth asking.
Absolutely. So next time you're reading about history or even just scrolling through the news, think about those forces and relations of production. Think about who is shaping the world around you and how. It's a fascinating lens to view things through.
It really is. And hey, if you can drop some historical materialism knowledge at your next dinner party, even better.
Now you're speaking my language.
This has been the Deep Dive.
Good.
We'll see you next time when we, hopefully we'll have something a little lighter to dissect.
Agreed. This theory stuff is fun, but a bit heavy for Friday afternoon.
Tell me about it.